Chapter 3. The following morning, as I stared at a soggy mass of cereal and willed my esophagus to swallow a spoonful, the doorbell exploded with frantic ringing. It was Nell. "Cass, you silly cow! Why the hell didn't you confide in me?" Probably because I was trying to come to terms with the situation before anybody else got wind of it, I replied, giving her a meaningful look. There was almost nothing Nell didn't know about the residents of our cul-de-sac. I'd been deluding myself, thinking the infidelity fiasco would go unnoticed. I chucked the congealed cornflakes in the bin and made some fresh coffee for us both, as Nell settled down to spill the gossip beans. It transpired that my love rival was a neighbour. She'd moved into the ivy-clad detached at the far end about a month ago. As I scalded my mouth on boiling coffee, I tried to silently count small blessings. Well, just the one blessing, actually. My house was the first in the road, and hers was the last. At least we wouldn't bump into each other on a Monday morning when the bins were put out. Nell also confirmed that my adversary was a divorcee, had 4 children, and Dylan was in the same class as her eldest boy. That was only one class down from Livy and Toby. Oh, God. I'd have to move. "What's her name?" I hissed. "Cynthia." "Cynthia!" I shrieked, making Nell jump. "Who the hell is called Cynthia in this day and age?" "Fat old bags?" asked Nell hesitantly. "What am I going to do?" I wailed, massaging my temples. Nell considered. "Well, the way I see it, there are 3 options." She held up her fingers and began to tick them off. "Move, stay put, or murder Cellulite Cynthia," I growled. Nell left about an hour later, eyes bright after such a gossip feast. This was the best scandal since Mr. Witherspoon, a few doors down, had been rescued by the emergency services. Although nobody had ever fully understood quite why he'd felt the need to shove his penis up the spout of the bath tap, especially the hot one. Stevie sent a text, proclaiming he loved me and had made a huge mistake. I let out a snarl and hurled the mobile across the floor. Fortunately, we were the only house in the cul-de-sac never to have got around to laminate flooring. The mobile remained intact, unlike my heart. Settling down with a notepad and pen, I made some financial calculations, essential if one was seriously considering going it alone, and happily discovered I was not necessarily financially dependent upon Stevie. 2 years ago, my darling octogenarian parents had left me reeling when they died within weeks of each other. As their only daughter, they had bequeathed me the entirety of their worldly goods, which, although modest, was not to be sniffed at. The money had been sitting quietly in an account, earning a tidy bit of interest. If I was thrifty, it could easily support the twins and myself for a while, at least until things were properly sorted out with Stevie. On the pretext of wanting an early night, I was in bed soon after Livy and Toby. In truth, I needed to privately release a torrent of weeping. Burying my face in the pillow to mute my howls of anguish, I wondered what Stevie and Cynthia were doing right now. Were they curled up together on the sofa watching telly? Cuddling? Kissing? Even worse, at it? The pain was so acute I thought it might dislodge my heart. I eventually sank into a tortured, mixed-up dream where, like Cynthia, I was sitting astride Stevie. Instead of groaning orgasmically, I was yelling, "Liar! Liar! Liar!" As I pneumatically bounced around, Stevie morphed into my love rival. "Bitch! Tart! Homewrecker!" I shrieked, lashing out with my fists. She grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me furiously. "Cow! Pig!" I screeched, thrashing about and wishing she'd stop rattling me so violently because my brain was starting to hurt. If I could just bunch my fist up one more time and biff her really hard on the nose, it would be... Ouch! It would be... Ah! What was my rival doing to me? "Mum, can you hear me? Wake up!" Toby was gripping my shoulders and shaking me like a terrier with a rag doll. Behind him stood Livy. My daughter was managing to look both disdainful and pained. "Do you know what time it is?" she admonished. "It's nearly 8 o'clock. We go back to school today, and there's no bread to make our packed lunches." Oh, my goodness. What sort of parent was I? Aside from a heartbroken single one, of course. I leapt out of bed, experienced a bit of a head rush, then belted down to the kitchen to ransack cupboards for crackers, crisps, biscuits, and anything that bore the labels monosodium glutamate. Why couldn't I be like some of the other mothers at the school gates? Many of them were raising a vegetarian family, buying organic ingredients and knocking up nutritious home cooking. Perhaps if I'd been more like that, I'd still have a faithful husband by my side. Meanwhile, bags of crisps, sugary drinks, and stale crackers would have to do. Shame washed over me as I realised that wallowing in self-pity had resulted in neglecting my precious offspring. Bugger Stevie for doing this to me! For the first time since the catastrophic events of that party, anger reared its head. I slapped plastic lids on lunchboxes and frisbeed them to my patiently waiting children. Belting back upstairs, I ignored my burgeoning bladder and pulled a long coat from the wardrobe. Grabbing my handbag and car keys, the three of us legged it out to the car. After blowing noisy kisses to the twins' rigid backs, public displays of affection were apparently uncool. On sudden impulse, I headed off to Fairview Shopping Centre. There was nothing like a spot of retail therapy to lift the spirits. And right now I needed to do everything possible to keep the pecker up. Just visualising handing over a little rectangular piece of plastic was putting some roses back in my pasty cheeks. This was definitely going to be good. I could feel it in my water. And talking of water, I really should find a loo very soon. Inside the shopping mall, distraction was immediate in the form of glittery denim jeans in the window of River Island. Low-rise, belted and bootlegged, they'd look absolutely terrific on an 18-year-old. I was a battle-worn 39, feeling furiously rebellious. I strode into the disco-lit interior where blaring music instantly assaulted my eardrums. Businesslike, I began moving around the shop floor loading up. It was hot work. 10 minutes later I flung the garments over my shoulder and shrugged off my heavy winter coat. Instantly refreshed, I headed off to the fitting room, vaguely aware that 2 teenagers were regarding me with ill-concealed amusement. When I swished the fitting room curtain aside with a flourish, the reason for the girls' mirth was apparent. My reflection, caught in a full-length mirror and lit in a blaze of downlighting, revealed a white-faced, black-eyed woman, clad in nothing but a nightdress. I groaned and sank to the floor in mortification. At that moment, I hated Stevie. How could I have let him reduce me to this?
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.